I want to introduce the Joy Coaches to Lynda Hanser and also to Chris Beeman, who is another wonderful health and wellness advocate who lives in Alaska, I believe, if she's still there. But welcome to all of the Joy Coaches who are on the call to meet Lynda. Lynda and Alfred is from Austria, and Lynda and Alfred are the co-CEOs, and they originated the business GIA Wellness. This is a business that is absolutely phenomenal and spreading around the globe. They've just opened the UK with health and wellness products that protect and defend our auric fields and really provide protection for us from EMF sensitivity and radiation pollution from the outside in and from the inside out. And as health and wellness advocates, and as we finish this last night of the Healer's Touch method, I have felt that it is very important that if we call ourselves health and wellness advocates, we need to be aware of what is going on in the 21st century and that there is a problem and that we need to be aware of it. And for those of you who may have heard my story, I had excruciating EMF sensitivity with migraines and with fatigue. And I was introduced by one of the Joy Coaches out of Arizona named Carol Gutierrez to Alfred and Lynda, and was able to get my first product, which was a Silgard, which immediately took my headaches away that had been excruciating. I went to bed with them, I woke up with them, and this was something that I lived and I endured 24/7 for 3 solid years. I primarily did work on my phone with a laptop on my lap, and so my energy levels were certainly being affected by that. So I am going to let you know that Lynda is so much fun. One of her favorite words is my favorite word, which is fun, and she is one of the top 10 global women in the world. She was named that. You can see her beautiful bio, her beautiful picture, and the many contributions that she has made to planet Earth. And I'm going to have her tell you about how she became interested in this electromagnetic frequency sensitivity and how she and her husband, Alfred, have now begun a crusade that has become worldwide in helping to combat what has now become 5G. And so we are all going to be affected and influenced by this. We have many links to many articles for those of you who want to understand. And it's so funny because I told Lynda, I told Alfred, if I can have 13 people on this call, I will be so happy. And I just looked down. Thank you, everybody who's come to this call, including Lynda. She is one of that 13. But I want to do that again and repeat that again. And if you have anybody to bring to the next call, we will arrange that time and date for Alfred to be there, for him to teach us about the biofield. We've just been learning about the auric field, which is another word, another name for biofield, and how we can be projected upon by outside stimuli, whether that is verbal abuse, whether that is toxins in our cleaning supplies, or whether that is EMF sensitivity. So Lynda, I'm just going to turn the time over to you, and I'll let you know if there's conflict in the connection, and then we'll just have you get on your phone. But I want you to have all the time that you need to share with us about this passion for protecting moms, children's, families, and what GIA is up to.
Well, thank you so much. And just if for some reason the connection gets choppy, just kind of give me a thumbs down and I'll jump on my phone immediately. Because I was hearing like every other word that you were saying, so I don't know if it's just my computer. But thank you so much. I'm so
Lynda,
I'm so happy to be.
It's having a problem, so maybe we should have you get on your phone.
Oh, I will.
Okay.
Right now.
And then
It'll take me just
off of your computer so that
seconds.
And then you can just turn the sound off of your computer so it doesn't do that shrill, high-pitched sound. And thank you again so much for being here with these women. And Sandy Marchant's here.
Hi there.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. I have no makeup. It's a makeup-free day today, so.
Hi, Karyn. You look like a teenager.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Kedzi. We're going to have you on too. I want all of these women to learn from experts in this field. So we are so excited to have symposium time for the Joy Coaches to learn. Okay.
Is this better?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So I just really want to start by saying thank you so much for inviting me. To those of you that don't know me, I'm going to share just a quick story about GIA and kind of how this all started. I was an English literature major. I was not somebody who was a health and wellness know-it-all by any stretch of the imagination. But it so happens that my dad, I grew up around cellular technology. My dad had a company called Advanced Electronics and California Cellular that was then purchased by Nextel and Verizon. And so growing up, he was in the telecommunications industry. And I remember him coming home and saying, you know, if we can reach the doctors on their boats in the harbor and tell them they've got to come back to the hospital, I should be able to reach my wife. So what started as ship-to-shore answering service and the telecommunications emergency services, like with the fire department and the police department, he was involved with all of that throughout the LA area. And he worked directly with the largest manufacturer of cellular technology that still is around today. And when I was 17 and left for college, I had one of the very first cell phones in my car. It was a mobile phone at the time. They were wired into the car. It was like a suitcase in between the seats, and it literally still had the wire to it. And I remember leaving for college thinking, what do I need with a cell phone or a car phone? Fast forward, after a long career in personal development and training and working with teams to help develop teams, I was working with my now husband, and he had a technology that was bringing protection to people for radiation. And it didn't even dawn on me until we were standing there we were in Canada. We were doing a huge meeting. There was like 150 people there, I think, and we were standing there, and he was describing the domino effect of what happens when we're exposed to electromagnetic radiation. And I was, you know, at the time, I was just really there to help teach independent consultants how to be successful, how to build relationships authentically and just love people. And that was really my job. And then I'm standing in the back of the room, and he says, I want you to imagine maybe a man in his middle age, maybe he's a little overweight, he doesn't exercise very well, he's got stress in life, and he's exposed to electromagnetic radiation. So his body is constantly going into a fight or flight mode, and this is what happens. The blood begins to coagulate, and we have coronary disease, heart attack, aneurysms, and that's the tip of the iceberg. And as I'm telling you the story right now, I still get goosebumps across my entire body, because I realized in that moment that when my dad died, at 62, he died 3 days before his 63rd birthday of an aneurysm, that he was describing my father to a T. My dad was stressed, he was a little bit overweight, he was, you know, running multiple businesses, and the piece of the health puzzle that he was missing was all of it, really. I mean, he didn't exercise, he didn't eat right, he didn't drink enough water, I'm sure. But at the same time, he had been exposed to electromagnetic radiation for his entire adult life, because he studied aeronautical engineering, and so he was around the telecommunications industry forever. And it was in that moment that I realized all of the statistics that we had been talking about and that I had been listening to and observing, because in my mind, that was like the product. And my job was to work with the people. And while the product was great and it was important, it really didn't hit home. And the irony did not hit home until that moment. The fact that my husband and I came together, that we were blessed to have the distribution rights to the only proven technology to reduce radiation absorption, when that wasn't my background whatsoever. And from the moment that we've started in business, thank goodness, we're a private company, we're privately held, we've been profitable every month, and our mission and purpose is to inspire people to have a life that is filled with growth in their health and well-being, that they live inspired lives, and that they live abundant lives. And so tonight, what Karyn wanted to talk about, and I saw the email that she sent, and it said EMF sensitivity. And I thought, well, there's a portion of the population that is legitimately EMF sensitive. I think, Karyn, you have that experience, that you could tell a dramatic difference when you were around a lot of electromagnetic radiation. There's some people who have tangible symptoms and reactions. And I'm concerned about those people. I would love for them to use all of our products. I would love for them to drink eye water. I would love for them to protect all of their devices and to live in an inspired wellness home. But honestly, it's the people who don't have those symptoms that I feel that much more passionate to talk about, because they don't know that the reason they're tired in the afternoon is partially because their body's undergoing so much stress. They don't know that the headache they can't figure out has to do with electromagnetic radiation, or the fact that they can't lose weight, or the fact that they are having skin issues. There are or that their kids might have ADD or autism, or that there's precursors to cancer that are literally being fueled by electromagnetic radiation. And so while there is a portion of the population that is EMF sensitive, it's the rest of us that, while we don't have a sensitivity to it, it's aging us and it's stressing us out, and it is not allowing us to live a life that is joyful, quite honestly, and to feel your best. And so, you know, the essence of what we do at GIA, it is about electromagnetic radiation, but it's a holistic kind of approach, and Karyn knows this because it's so important that we are able to touch people's hearts and to inspire them and help them along their path and personal growth and development and leading their lives. You know, I say every day that every single one of us is a CEO of our own life. Like, whether you're an independent consultant and running your own business, or you're a mom or a sister or a daughter, you're kind of in charge of your life. And so being proactive about living the best life that you can in this day and age includes making sure that you're taking care of all things in your body that could be compromised because of this additional stress. And one of the things I want to share is, even if you live in a rainforest with no cellular towers and there's no 5G, you still need these products, because the essence of life and health is its hydration, its energy, and its nourishment. And if you don't have good hydration, good energy, and good nourishment, then you can't really function. And so regardless of where we are in our path in life, no matter how stress-free we are, and I think my kids graduated from college. I thought now, well, Shelby's going to graduate in May. I thought now that my two girls are like adults, all the stress of being a mom and worrying, like, it's transitioning to another part, but it doesn't. They're still your kids, you know, you still worry about them. So even if the stress is like just regular family stress that is part of life, or if it's financial stress, whatever it is, when we're exposed to electromagnetic radiation, it's like adding fuel to the fire. If stress in our life is a little bit of a fire, and it's you know, we get a little bit hot, we get a little bit uncomfortable, electromagnetic radiation is literally like pouring gasoline on whatever the stress is, and it exacerbates it. And so sometimes people have a little bit of a hard time saying, so how is it that your products can help how does it help ADD? How does it inhibit cancer growth? And how does it help somebody have calm, focus, more patience, let's say? That's a really wide spectrum. And the truth is that, as you guys probably all know, that when the body is fueled correctly, it's miraculous and it can do amazing things. And so with the electromagnetic radiation products that we have, the protection products, it's basically like offsetting this invisible threat and this invisible stress that's around us all the time. If electromagnetic radiation had a color or a scent, you would probably run out of every room that you go into, because it's everywhere. It's in Starbucks, it's in airplanes, it's in hotel lobbies, and everywhere now is, they're touting the fact that they have hotspots and free Wi-Fi. And so we think it's great, and it is great. I love the fact that I can communicate with my daughters and pick up my phone and FaceTime them from anywhere. I love that. I think that's great, but it's at the expense of our health and well-being. And so my encouragement is that as you are health and wellness advocates, that you recognize that while people are having emotional stress and physical stress, that this is a silent stressor that is magnifying everything else in your life. And all I can share with you is that the testimonials and the stories of what happens when we're able to offset this negative influence, it's astounding. And people ask us about the different products that we have, and why do we have something that goes on your phone, to help deal with that device? Why do we have something else that you wear on your body, that like my necklace that I have on? And then we have something else that you plug into your walls. And what I'll share with you is the easiest way to explain that is, if you go in the sun, and we love the sun, but it can burn us. And depending on our level of sensitivity, really dangerous for some of us. And so we wear sunscreen. And our products, to a large degree, work like sunscreen. Sunscreen doesn't take away the sun, but it changes the way your body reacts to the sun so that you don't get burned. You're still out there, the sun is still there, but it helps offset the impact of the sun. That's how our products work. So it doesn't take away the electromagnetic radiation. If it did that, you would never have a signal. But it alters the way your body is receiving it, and it reduces the radiation absorption, which is really, really important. But in the same way that if you were to go in the sun and you're sensitive like I am, I have light eyes, I have a lot of freckles on my skin, and I had a propensity for skin cancer. So when I go in the sun, I wear sunscreen, and I wear glasses, and I wear a hat because I want a layered approach to offset the impact of the sun. And so that's the same thing with a lot of our products that fall in that category of electromagnetic radiation protection. In our hydration category, that's a whole different thing. Part of what happens when you're exposed to electromagnetic radiation is that you have toxic buildup in your cells because your cell membranes harden because of the stress. It's a fight or flight mechanism, so you have a lot of cortisol release, and it impacts cell-to-cell communication. So we also have a hydration technology that helps detoxify all of those built-up toxins, and it is life-changing. But I know that tonight we're talking specifically about electromagnetic radiation, and 5G basically means that there's cell towers that are going to be put up everywhere. They're little mini ones. They're not as big as the ones that are super noticeable, but there's over 300,000 mini cell phone towers that are being laid across our country as we speak to increase data speed. And basically it is magnifying the impact of the problems associated with electromagnetic radiation. There are some schools that are jumping on board, especially in Europe. In France, they do not allow cellular technology and iPads in the rooms. They're hardwiring computers and not having routers because there's so much correlation between EMF exposure and learning disabilities and autism and ADD. If anybody has any children or grandchildren that suffer from ADD, I really, really encourage you to ask Karyn about what the best thing is to help that child with some of the products. One thing that's really unique and different about our company is we are the only technology that features two different technologies. One inhibits radiation absorption and the other reinforces that energy field that Karyn was talking about, that biofield. That's our first line of defense. And so that is one of the things that really sets us apart in that category of products. And I just feel literally humbled every day that I get to wake up and do what I do. And my job is really just to help people. Well, I work a lot with the independent consultants. So I do a lot of training more in leadership development and personal development and empowering women and teens outside of GIA. But my responsibility in GIA is just, well, it's a lot. I'm just, I'm like the co-CEO, I forget sometimes. I feel like everybody's upline, but it's a lot. But my greatest joy is in getting to meet new people and getting to connect with people who love life enough and who love people enough to have an open mind and just, yeah, to make a difference. Really, at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about, is feeling like we're making a difference. And so I'm just really honored to be able to talk to you guys and to share a little bit about what it is that we're doing. And you know, Karyn's had some amazing results with the products herself, and it's just, it's undeniable that this is a part of the health puzzle that wasn't there several years ago. If you went to your doctor a few years ago, the doctor would say, eat right, reduce your stress, drink a lot of water, exercise. And now a big part of that puzzle, it's not just reduce your stress, it's reduce stress associated with electromagnetic radiation, because it's invisible, it has no odor, and it is unfortunately infiltrating every area of our life. And I'm just going to end my little talk here by letting you know that one of the most rewarding things that happened in the very, very beginning, when we first started sharing these technologies, I remember we were in the Midwest somewhere. I can't remember what state, but we were in the Midwest. And a young woman came up to me afterwards and hugged me and said, I am so excited to hear what you have to say, because for 10 years, everybody has told me that I was crazy. And she had the wires going over her farm, and I can't remember what are they called? The high voltage wires, but the wires that emit electromagnetic radiation. And she was extremely sensitive, and her face would turn red and her skin would crawl and she would get headaches, and she would go to the doctor and she would say, I think it might be this. I think it might be the electromagnetic radiation. And I'm watching our cows and they're not right. They're not normal. And everyone thought she was crazy. And she was just so relieved that somebody was acknowledging that she could actually be right. And I just think that there's millions and millions of people out there who are feeling older than they feel, or they should feel. They're feeling lethargic. They're feeling something. They're feeling sad. They're feeling all the things that stress does, and they can't figure out why they're feeling that way. And then we lift this, or we negate this negative energy, and all kind of magic happens in their life. I never thought that I would be really excited to say that I was 54. When I turned 54, I realized my dad died at 62. And I knew that was young, because I knew it felt like I had a lot of life that I wanted to share with him still. But I feel so proud now to say I'm 54 years old, and I feel like because of our products, I have a more youthful spirit. I have a youthful energy. I have joy and hopefully a few less wrinkles than I would if I wasn't spraying and drinking this water that is, so hydrating, and I wasn't taking care of this stress that is, just infiltrating our world. And it's, not all about vanity, but I do know that for me, if I'm feeling like God gave me this body and gave me this life and this luggage that I'm carrying around this soul in, and I feel like I need to honor it by treating it the best that I can. And it feels good to have energy and to know that we're making a difference for people, whether it's a newborn baby who needs to have universal guards on the monitors in their cribs, their wireless monitors in their cribs now. So whether it's a newborn baby that we are making a difference, or an elderly woman like my mom who's 95 years young, and helping her with her short-term memory loss and having energy, and literally every single person is impacted by this. And it just feels really good to know that our products are making a difference. So I'm really grateful that you are all open-minded enough to hear this information and care enough. And then what you do with it is really completely up to you. It says in the Bible, the truth will set you free. And I totally believe that, but I think you got to do something with the truth. Like, you can find it, you can hear it, but you kind of got to do something once you hear it. And so, I guess that's a little bit about our company. And I grew up speaking Spanish, so GIA is really the root word for energy, and energía. My mother's from Central America. So the GIA of GIA really comes from the root word of energía. So when we were starting the company, we were trying, because we want to just bring positive energy in every single aspect to the world. So I don't know, Karyn, I can't see you anymore. I don't know.
I'm here, and I just want to thank you, Lynda, and I want to share with these women, because and I'm so grateful that you could take the time to be with us, and also Kedzi and Chris Beeman and Sandy Marchant, and those women who have benefited from your passion and from yours and what you and Alfred have been creating. I would like to I tried to send Kedzi a little message. Kedzi, if you would be willing to just share a little bit about your story, I would love it. I want to have you on sometime as part of a symposium so that these health and wellness advocates can learn more about this. I feel so passionate about it when I think about our children, our grandchildren being handed iPods and iPads and chewing on cell phones, and the things that are coming at us from all directions, especially through those auric fields that we were talking about, this very fine material, which is spirit, which is energy, which is around our body, which can be penetrated. And I remember Alfred, when I first came into this knowledge, Lynda's husband, spent a good deal of time with me. He said, Karyn, what EMF radiation does is if your body doesn't know the difference between verbal abuse and EMF radiation. And so if you were being verbally abused, which is a pelt to your auric field, it still comes at you, hostile energy, your body goes into fight or flight, cortisol production. The body doesn't know the difference between this foreign energy coming at you in the form of verbal abuse or radiation. And your cells begin to harden. And so I had gotten this cell guard and I had put it on my phone. My headaches went away immediately, but I did not attribute it to the cell guard. And then, for 3 weeks, I did not have migraines anymore. And then all of a sudden, hello there, Ming. All of a sudden, my migraines came back with a vengeance. And I turned to my husband and I said, this thing isn't working. It's not working. He said, let me see your phone. He said, it's not there. And I had put it on wrong and it had come off and I didn't find it for 3 days. And I was desperate because my headaches were back with a vengeance. And then I found it at the bottom of my purse and he glued it on. with that Gorilla Glue, and the headaches went away. And I have not suffered from headaches since the day I received that Cell Guard in the mail. Well, I thought that's all I needed. I thought, I don't need one more thing. I don't need to share one more thing. I just am happy, and I'll share this with my sister. I'll share this with my mother because I want them to be protected as well. I have a sister that suffers from chronic illness. And I had a Kangen water machine because I wanted the best of the best. I had it hooked up to a multi-pure filter, and I was satisfied with my water. But why was I so tired still? So Alfred gets on the phone with me, and on a Zoom. Lynda's husband takes this time for this one woman, and I said, Alfred, does it matter if I drink this single file aligned water when I have a Kangen water machine, which is a $4,000 Kangen water machine? He said, well, what does your machine do? He already knew. He'd studied it. I said, well, it microclusters the water, and it breaks it down into 3 molecules. So now it can permeate my cells, and I came out of deep dehydration after a gastric bypass surgery, and it really brought me back to life. He said, well, you are feeling sick now, and I can tell you that the single file aligned water vessel that we have does not microcluster the water. It single file aligns it. That is smaller than microclustering, which means it can get through those aquapore, tiny, tiny holes that your cells have in which to let water in a pearl strand necklace. I didn't want to spend money on one more thing. But 2 weeks after getting the Cell Guard and figuring out that this was working, I felt that I should put my house payment on hold and try this single file aligned water. I need to be open-minded. I need to be willing. When God puts something, it's like Lynda said, the truth will set you free if you listen to the truth. And I thought, I'll give it a try. So I did. And I remember going and taking a joy coaching bath with bubbles and music and a 16-ounce glass of this water. And literally the words that came to my mind, now your body can begin healing from the inside out because you have a correct delivery style. I really didn't know what that meant. I hadn't studied it. Another week passed. I was drinking the water. My husband said, you really avoided paying the house payment so you could buy another water thing? And I said, yes. And if it works, I'll sell the Kangen water machine because that's old technology. I want the best technology, and I want the newest technology and the most recent technology. Kangen water is now older technology. And so my husband started on the water, and the neuropathy in his feet began to lighten up. He started having feeling coming back to his feet. And so now we were both excited. We took it to the joy coaches at the time, to Laura Ersfield, to other joy coaches who felt, if there's something to this, we might want to be open-minded. I want to thank Lynda and Alfred for the time that was spent individually on me, who my whole life was joy coaching, and yet I didn't have the energy to do it. I was dehydrated. I didn't know it. I was drinking microclustered water, which was not the best that my body needed. I met people like Ming Lovejoy, who just got on this call, Kedzi Morgan, who has been on the call for a while. And I've asked for them if they could just join us for a few minutes. If each of these two women, both Ming and Kedzi, could share with you, because both are health and wellness practitioners. Both are women who have devoted their life to helping others to heal. And they have got incredible stories. And so if they could just share, I do want to have a symposium. I do want to. Alfred is coming back possibly next Thursday. He's getting back to me whether he can come. He's going to do his PowerPoint on the biofield. This is something that we're studying. We're learning how somebody's verbal abuse being pelted and projected at us can cause us to go into a spiral. But not only that, what is happening in the world today can cause a similar spiral because the body doesn't know the difference between abuse and abuse. And radiation is abuse any way you look at it. So Ming, I can see you, so I'm going to ask you if you would go first. And thank you, Joy Coaches, for staying on this call to hear a few of these women that I absolutely marvel at their intelligence and what they have studied and know way better than me. So Ming, if you would take it away, and then Kedzi.
Well, I'll just say that I was actually looking for something that would make it safe to use our cell phones, computers, that kind of stuff. And I encountered a fabulous functional medicine doctor at a business conference, and he shared GIA Wellness with me. What I really, I want to say just embraced was that it really is a three-pillared or a fundamental pillared approach to helping us thrive in the world in which we live today. So it was not very long after I was introduced to this man. He introduced me around, I watched some videos, saw some information, came on board with a package that would protect my entire family and our home. And one of the things I noticed in drinking the IH2O, and this happened within the first couple weeks, was that I literally could drink water, and in about 10 to 15 minutes I had energy. And I had read about this in some of the science behind it, that it actually helped cells produce ATP or energy. But it's amazing when you're at the slumping part of the day in the afternoon after lunch, and you're just kind of struggling and wanting to reach for caffeine and sugar, to be able to drink something like the IH2O. And over time, I will just say, using all the products, and we safeguarded our home, got our kids on the nutritionals, all of us on the nutritionals, all of our sort of fragile immune systems became strong. We got so that the kids weren't sick anymore at all, not even the flu. And my husband's allergies, lifelong, some very serious allergies cleared up. And one huge gift for me was I was one of those women who relied a lot on caffeine and sugar to help me get through the day. I think I was probably, my adrenals were in fatigue, or they were shot. But one of the things I noticed being on all of the GIA products, wearing my GIA Life pendant, drinking the water, and faithfully being on the iThrive and the Edge and the iNourish and all of the nutritionals, was literally that I stopped craving caffeine and sugar, completely evaporated out of my life. And I felt a kind of freedom that I have never felt before. And that was just, I was free. I was free of an addiction. So that's just some of the story. I'm not going to take up any more time tonight, but that's a drop in the pond. So thanks, Karyn.
Thank you, Ming, and you look beautiful. It's so good to see you. I'm so happy to see you and Lynda and Kedzi. Kedzi, if you are here and if you are available, I just appreciate.
I'm here. So you can't see me over there. Okay, I'm here. I'm in a little square there on your screen somewhere. Okay, well, like Ming, I have to take a little chunk out of my full experience, but one of the ways that I start to tell my story is that for many, many years, I was like a kid in a candy shop, because I had access to being able to test myself in many, many, many ways, from hormones to brain chemicals to something I still do with my clients, which is hair analysis. And I'll just stick to that part of it right now. I had 28 consecutive hair analysis tests, and not just the tests over 7 or 8 years, but the protocols. I was following protocols that go along with that, your map, your biochemical map. So believe me when I tell you, working that hard on my health, and in all ways, not just the, as Lynda was saying before, the nutrition and the exercise, but so many different ways, so much money too. And then I really got to a place where my health was the best it had ever been in my life. And at that time, I was in my early 50s. So I'm 65 and a half right now. So in my early 50s, I was really at the top of the mountain with the flag and the whole thing, just, I made it, kind of a thing. And even though I was still going to be working on my health for my whole life, at that point, suddenly it was like hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour. You go from the best ever and so much life force and so much energy, so much creativity, and you completely crash and you have no concept of why or how that could actually happen. And then you look at your tests and you say, oh my God, everything is crashing. What is going on? There didn't seem to be any evidence around me for anything that I was doing, or, it was so sudden. Well, it was almost 2 years of, I call it my dark 2 years. And one of the things that I think you mentioned it, or maybe both of you and Lynda mentioned it, about our cell membranes hardening. Well, I didn't know what these images were for 2 years that were in my eyes open, meaning not in my eyes, but I could see them with my eyes open and I could see them with my eyes closed. I'm very empathic, intuitive, and psychic and all those things, and I couldn't get any messaging with the images. But when I was eventually introduced almost 2 years later, after my dark 2 years, and the symptoms, I could go through some of my symptoms here. The odd part of it is being in health so long, decades and decades as I was at that point, now it's 40 years, symptoms usually for people, the types of symptoms usually come and go, or they can get past certain symptoms. With the people up to that point, thousands of people that I had helped, they get past their symptoms. The symptoms that I was having were everything from not being able to read properly anymore, not being able to add numbers past 3 numbers. I used to go to the bank and ask the teller, I'd say, oh, I don't have the right glasses, and you have that adding machine there. I'm just going to make a mistake anyway, so could you please add my numbers? That was when a lot of people used checks. I was acting sort of illiterate, and like I couldn't see anymore. My vision was going out. I couldn't walk a straight line without falling down 2 or 3 times to go to the barn to feed my horses back and forth. Massive body pain that would move around, gobs of hair falling out, rapid aging, hormone disruption like you wouldn't believe, just on and on and on, the things that were piling up, and they weren't coming and going, they were coming and not leaving, like a mountain of things. And those images, finally, when I was introduced, it was a miracle that I was introduced to the technology back in 2007. I instantly knew when I put that cell guard, she told me, turn off the phone, turn it back on, and tell me what happens. It was an absolute miracle. What I had felt after, putting the guard on the phone and then turning it back on, I realized what I was feeling in my brain and my joints and my body is what I call like an ice pick, like hitting me. And in the old days, as we say, those jingles on the phone were so uncomfortably loud, no matter how far down you turned your volume, because they were advertising. Oh, you have Verizon. Oh, you have whoever. Because remember the plans, if somebody had your plan, you could call them for free in the old days. So they wanted to market to each other, and they were so loud, and it just was so uncomfortable. And when that cell guard went on the phone and it turned on for the first time with protection, instead of the ice pick, it was like a velvet wave that came right through my brain, right through my body. And instantly I saw what those little things that were floating around for 2 years really were. And they were actually my cells, and I called them dirty fish bowls. Hard like glass on the outside and toxic like a dirty fish bowl on the inside. And I suddenly knew everything that was really going on. I didn't know everything as far as technology, but I knew inside that the root of this dark 2 years that suddenly came out of nowhere had everything to do with what was happening in our world. And so I'm going to say my story, really began there, and it's been an amazing trajectory since that time. But when I put the pendant on in a few days, when I got my order and put the harmonizer in the wall, I had a dog at the time who was about 12 or 13. He lived to be 17, and he was 75 pounds, and I do attribute his long life to having these technologies around him. And I didn't understand exactly what the harmonizer was doing, but I knew that at his stage in life that I wouldn't really be able to do the electrosonic ear and teeth cleaning where they put him under anesthesia and then they clean him out. I knew that was probably going to be the last time. So that day that I took him I brought him home and he was still very wobbly, and I had to leave that night. So I changed my clothes. You know, he was in the house. I walked in the other room, changed my clothes, came out of the bedroom, and the harmonizer was in a wall plug 18 inches off the floor, right? And here's this 75-pound dog upside down trying to hug the harmonizer with his feet on Sotillo tile, which is very bumpy. And to have a dog that big on its spine on no carpeting, hugging the wall, hugging this thing sticking out of the wall. I stood there, and this is before we took pictures of everything, including our food and everything else. I stood there and I said, no one is going to believe. They're going to think that I made him do that. They would never believe it. And after that, people started talking about what their animals were doing in and around the harmonizer, in and around with the water tests. We have so many incredible stories. And I want to finish with, I heard yesterday at my networking meeting, one of my wonderful members named Barb, and she's got 1 million grandkids, and she's raising some of them, and she's an amazing gal, and has her own, you know, health struggles, and she's coming up. And can you imagine being in kindergarten and being thrown out of kindergarten? Can you just imagine that? Because of your hyperactivity and because you can't handle yourself and you're disrupting all the other kids. Well, they finally got a pendant for this child. And he has completely, I haven't heard the whole story, but he has completely transformed himself. And I'm going to be videotaping the whole story, because she told me just an itty bitty bit the other day because she didn't have time. But just imagine what the world would be like without all the medications for our children and people and so forth, if we just had removing the interference to our health and our ability to heal and stay balanced. So I will just end there, because that's just the beginning of my story. I could go on all night, and we will, and I will tell more of it in the future.
Well, I want to thank you, Kedzi and Ming and Lynda, for being on this call tonight with these health and wellness advocates who deserved to hear this, deserved to know how these products have blessed our lives and changed our lives. I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night instead of 6:45. I bounce up my staircase instead of trudge with my heart pounding. I do not know or understand how everything made such a huge difference and such a huge change. But I know that my husband's former wife, she died of breast cancer. He told me that he always told her, don't put your cell phone in your bra. She said, oh, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And she died of breast cancer from the side of her, the breast that she put the cell phone against. And after we got married, I started to realize that it might not be very much fun to be married to me, because I was going to sleep and going to bed at 6:45 at night. And I thought, oh no, he's going to feel like he's just taking care of another woman who's not feeling good. And so a year into my marriage, I got married on May 27th. And a year to the day, I ordered these products. And my marriage is completely different, I know, because I sold the Kangen water machine because this water worked better. Newer technology, and it changed my skin. It changed the wrinkles in my skin. It helped me to lose 11 pounds that I didn't have to work hard at losing, because it was flushing toxins out of my body. I had new energy. My headaches were gone. My eyes that were always at half mast. And I realized that I'm not wearing makeup tonight, so I might look a little pale, but my eyes were always at half mast. And when I would be in resting position, my eyes were always closed. And in between giving joy coaching sessions, I had to schedule in time to lay down. I go and go and go now. I have my energy back. I feel great. I am so excited. And so I wanted the joy coaches to know that you may have. And Ming, thank you so much for being on here tonight and sharing. I want all of you to be able to hear more of these women's stories, because they only did give you a nutshell. And I know they were working very hard to keep it concise because it's dinner time. But I do want to let each and every one of the Joy Coaches know that I would be dishonest with myself if I did not let you know that it was the GIA products, not peppermint oil, that took away those headaches. And that it was the GIA products that gave me back my energy, that I had been on doTERRA for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and I was drinking Kangen water. And still, I did not have what I needed. And like Lynda said, I may be one of those acute sufferers from EMF sensitivity. It may be one of those things that I am gifted to be able to feel it, so that I can know that I need to do something about it. And probably, if I hadn't have felt it, I would have turned a deaf ear to the whole program. But I know that many, many people have been able to fortify and protect themselves, their children, and their families because I had a sensitivity. So I thank you all for being on this call tonight. Thank you for being here. Michael was 13. We had 18. Thank you, Dewan, for being on the call, for Chris Beeman for being here, for Susanna coming from Australia, Sarah coming from Indiana, for Lynda Hart coming from Daybreak, and for Jean coming from Glendora, California, Meredith from the west side of Washington near Seattle, and from Ramona coming from Michigan, and Carol Gutierrez, the amazing, wonderful woman who said, Karyn, you are going to try a cell guard. And you don't mess with Carol. Carol is a registered holistic nurse, and she told me I was going to do this. I was going to try it. And I can tell you that she saved my life. And I listened. I did not want to let her down. I want to thank Sandra Bailey for being here. I was able to make a payment to Sandra for her beautiful gastric graphics with an eye water unit. I have been instrumental in getting Lynda for all of her, for all of the tables of contents for the Joy Coaching manuals to get her an eye water unit. And so I just want to thank everybody for being on this call tonight. Now, very soon, we are going to have Alfred, not tonight, but he is checking his calendar for next Thursday night. We have just completed Healer's Touch module, so we have an open Thursday night. You've got to hear about the biofield. You've got to hear from Alfred. You are going to love him like you will love Lynda and Ming and Kedzi and these women who have mentored me and helped me to understand what it was I was lacking and what it was I needed that doTERRA did not and could not provide for me. So if any of you have questions or are interested, who would be willing to have a call from Kedzi, I would like to introduce you to Kedzi, and I would like to have Kedzi follow up with those Joy Coaches who want to hear more, want to know more, and want to explore more for what this can do for your Joy Coaching businesses, adding something to your umbrella, if not for your clients, but for yourselves, if you feel like you might be in need of something that you've heard about tonight. There is no pressure.
I want to make sure that people know they are totally also welcome to call me or call the office if somebody wants to schedule an appointment. I mean, Kedzi has so much information and she's just a rock star when it comes to these technologies. But I want to make sure, as always, I feel like an extended member of this team. And so I'm just, if anybody wants to, you know, connect or send an email or whatever, I want to make sure that you know that too. I'm not probably as accessible, but I really want to make sure that people understand that the team doesn't stop. It goes into the corporate office, at least with us. Thank you so much for having me. I feel so grateful to have gotten at least a chance to get to know people virtually through this. And I have to say, one of the things that makes me very proud of when I hear you talking about your story, that our eye water unit is 1/5 of the price. Is that right? Like, I don't do math, only in case of emergency, but it's literally 1/5 of the price of the unit that you were talking about, that, you know, there's just no reason for something to cost that much. we try.
I didn't mean to, but I made money by selling it.
I know.
And I told her that she,
as affordable as it possibly could be and lasts forever, and it's just so vital. And I love your t-shirt, so I have to say that before I go, but I'm going to jump off.
no.
I love your t-shirt, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm going to jump off, and yeah, I send you guys a big hug.
Lynda,
Thanks, Lynda.
would you just tell them your email address? So if anybody wants to write it down, and Kedzi, if you could just shout out your email address.
Easiest way is Lynda at LyndaCormier.com. I spell my name with a Y, Lynda, and at LyndaCormier.com. Or Lynda, LYNDAC, at GIA Wellness. If you want to ever get in touch with anybody at GIA, it's first name, last initial, at GIA Wellness. So LYNDAC at GIA Wellness. And yeah, I just feel really, really grateful. And I'm just going to end. And one of the things I do in all of my trainings, and the most important thing I've ever taught in my life, is just to keep opening your mouth and your heart at the same time, because you can't go wrong. And I really appreciate you for doing that, and Kedzi and Ming for doing that as well. So send you a big hug, and I'm going to run now.
Thank you, Lynda, so much. Kedzi, would you mind just sharing your email address with everybody?
It's Kedzi, Kedzi, at AOL.com. A dinosaur.
Thank you so much. So if any of you have questions and you want to reach out to Kedzi or Lynda, please feel free to do that. Please feel free to explore. We will be posting in the next week before Alfred comes on. We will be posting some very important links about electromagnetic concerns for mothers, for children, for especially as we get into the lullaby connection. We want to inform young mothers the dangers of just handing your child an iPad and letting him go to sleep with that as his babysitter. So everybody, thank you. We love you. We send you so much love, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Karyn. Thanks, Ming, wherever you are.
Thank you, Ming.
Thanks, everyone.